Hey, everybody. Welcome. So excited to have you here to learn a little bit more about ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, how we're going to use it for job seeking. Let's get a couple of dance moves going. How's everybody doing? Would love to hear in the chat where you're tuning in from, and tell me a little bit more about what you're hoping to get out of today's live stream. We've got a couple of folks here. Perul, welcome Perul. Excited to learn about ChatGPT to find the right job. Kay is also here for the same thing. Love that. We're gonna have a lot of different examples that you'll be able to use. We've got someone from CDMX. I'm not able to see on some of the comments who is writing them, but I'm also in Mexico in Playa del Carmen on the Caribbean coast. And I'm also using this live stream tool for the first time. So if there are any issues with this stream, it is because I am learning a new technology. So please bear with me. But let me know in the chat here where you are at and what you're hoping to get out of today's stream. And yeah, I want to just kind of preface everything today with I talk to job seekers every single day. One of the things that pisses job seekers off the most is the fact that a lot of things in the job seeking process take a lot of time. So customizing your job application materials, matching those job descriptions with resumes, doing company research, writing cover letters, so many different things take time that traditionally up until now has been a very manual process, right? It's been something that takes minutes, hours, days sometimes. And so what if I were to tell you that using ChatGPT, using artificial intelligence, that we could do things that took us hours before in only seconds now? That is the kind of stuff we're going to talk about today. I've been testing some of this stuff every single week with my clients. I'm going to be sharing a few different tricks that you can walk away with today and start using with a free tool called ChatGPT. So over time, I just want you to recognize that as more people try this, as more people go down this rabbit hole, there will be better processes that people come up with. You may even take something today that I tell you and make it a million times better than the way that I do it. So if you do, please let me know. I'm always interested in learning new ways of understanding how to do these processes. And just a reminder, wherever you're at right now, to subscribe and follow. And there's going to be more content, especially this week, about ChatGPT and about artificial intelligence for your job search. So we have someone else looking for Europe, EU roles. Yeah, we're going to definitely cover stuff like that today as well. I'm going to be posting all this stuff in my newsletter as well, in my emails. I'll put this into the chat. So if you want to join my newsletter, you can do there at the top, and I will be sending out videos this week, more tutorials, all that sort of stuff. If you don't want to sign up for my newsletter, that's fine too. You can just log into my YouTube and just make sure you hit the notification bell and you subscribe. So Thursday, I'm going to send out an email with all the prompts and the stuff that we talk about today, as well as new videos and tutorials about this. There'll be a Google Doc with all those prompts. And then for those of you that are on the live today and you stay throughout the live, I'm going to be posting the prompts in the chat too. So you're going to get some of the prompts in the chat today, and then I'll have a better list of prompts. I might end up charging for some of this stuff. So for the people that are here today live, like, that's going to be a nice advantage. Or if you look at the comments, there'll be some of the things that will be free. And yeah, I don't know exactly where I'm going to go with all this, but let's see where we go with it today. Okay, so let's jump in. There was a artificial intelligence that landed a job interview. Now that made headline news, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharing my screen with you so you can see what it is that I'm talking about. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to show this on stream. Just let me know if you can see this in the chat. Can you see this article? So this was an article I stumbled upon. It said, recruitment team unwittingly recommends ChatGPT for a job interview. So really in the height of this ChatGPT stuff, like there's been a million users that they've gathered in less than a week. For context, that's taken Facebook and Instagram many, many months to do. So this is a pretty crazy situation. And then you have a program that's able to answer questions like a human. It's able to talk like a human. So there is just so many different things here that are worth talking about because of this. So if you imagine that a artificial intelligence can do this by itself, my challenge to you is imagine what it could do with you being in control of it, with you telling it what to do. And we're going to try to do some stuff live today. But just in case, I already have all of my prompts saved and already done. And another thing is there's so many people using this right now that the site crashes frequently. So I think in the near future, they're going to have a paid version that will probably limit that crashing. But for now, you can still take advantage of ChatGPT because it's free, but it may crash on you. So you're going to want to go in and retry logging in when it does that. I want to also ask a quick question. What is the most important thing about ChatGPT in artificial intelligence? What do you think is the most important thing that humans can do to get what they want out of ChatGPT? What do you think is the most important thing? And just type a comment in there. And for those of you that are asking questions, I'll get to the questions towards the end after we do some of the tutorials, and then I'll go through your questions. So feel free to add questions in there as well. And I will star those just to make sure that I don't forget. So yeah, tell me, what do you think is the most important thing? To save time, for sure. Yeah, definitely AI is save time. But what do you think? What do I need to give it as a human? As a human, what am I giving artificial intelligence to make sure that it gives me something back? What do you think is the most important thing? Give everyone a second to answer that. So there's a little bit of a lag. Search accuracy. Yeah, definitely. So like the biggest thing is the prompt that you give it and clear specific information. Yeah, exactly. So search accuracy, clear specific info, specific prompts, best directions possible, information and knowledge. Steven, great. Live the way you want. Love that one. Specific prompts. Accurate search terms. Love it, love it, love it. So this is exactly what I was looking for. Spend 80% of your time with ChatGPT creating the information that you're going to give it. The more that you give it, the more specific information that you give it, the more accurate information you give it, the more formatting you give it, the better that you're going to get as an output. You are basically training this model and helping it learn more about you. And AI is not perfect, right? So anytime you get something from AI, there was a question about how accurate ChatGPT is you need to check it for accuracy. You need to check it for formatting. You need to check it for mistakes because it's not perfect. And the level in which you give it things that are accurate are the level in which you may get some things that are accurate. So I want to start with that. And think of it like this, like you're giving ChatGPT puzzle pieces in a logical order or way. So for a job seeker, that might look like I'm going to give ChatGPT a job description and pull out the keywords. Then once I have the keywords, I'm going to add information so that it can give me a resume. Once I have the resume, then I'm going to ask for a cover letter. Focus on the context that you're providing at all times to the models so that it can better get to know you and then give you better information. And then those formats that you give it. Okay, so we're going to go into some demos here. I am going to... And yeah, I saw another question. So keep the questions coming. I'm going to star all the questions and come back to them at the end after some demonstration. So we're going to go through and I'm going to cover 5 or 6 different topics that I've developed prompts for. So one of the first ones, or let me go through this. These aren't perfect, by the way. Like they're meant to give you an idea of what you can do. And from here, you know, as we go along, continue to ask questions, or even if you have a suggestion of like, oh, this could make this prompt even better, like type that in so we can, as a group, get better at understanding this. If there's a chance to do more live stuff, I will do more live stuff. But again, I want to limit the chance of something going wrong. So I've already done all of this stuff. Let's start with research. We're going to do resume. We're going to do LinkedIn. We're going to do interview questions. And we're going to talk about this really cool tool at the end, or this really cool hack at the end that not a lot of people would think about. And it's one that helps you in so many different ways, but we'll get to that in a moment. So the first one is research. So when you're looking for a company, one of the main things I recommend that you do as a job seeker in the very beginning of your job search is just stop applying. Stop going on job boards, stop applying to jobs, and just take a moment to step back and really realize, one, what are the different skills that you have? What are the job roles that you want to do? What are the industries you want to be in? And what are the types of companies that you want to work for? And a lot of that starts from your ideal lifestyle. So if I'm searching for a remote job in the US and I'm looking for something that can be, anywhere in the US, that's going to be a very different search than, say, someone in here who posted at the top that they're looking for Europe and EU roles, right? Like that's a very different search because there are certain types of companies that will not allow you to live in the EU, but will allow you to live in the US, for instance. There are some companies that won't even let you live outside of a certain state or a certain, geographical area. So in the comments, just put, where is it that you want to find a remote job and what is it you want to accomplish with a remote job? Do you want to travel the world? Do you just want to work from home in the US? Do you want to work from home in the EU? Do you really care about where it is that you need to be? And I think that's one of the most important parts of starting a job search is finding companies that already will allow you to live the ideal lifestyle that you want to live. I've had clients who have gotten into job interview processes with companies that said that they were remote US, right? And it turned out like second or third interview process that these companies are like, well, would you be willing to relocate? And she was like, what do you mean relocate? You said this was remote anywhere in the US and I'm in the US. And their thought was, they're going to be coming back to the office after COVID. So it's like, it's such a stupid thing, but like this is a real reality of job seekers and like what you're dealing with when you're talking to remote companies is that you really need to have a good indication of what your ideal remote lifestyle is. What are the barriers that you're finding? Like we have someone from here who's Canadian, living in Costa Rica, looking for 100% remote restrictions that do not have location restrictions. This is most people. Most people are looking for something that has zero restrictions, right? So in that camp, like that's actually the least amount of jobs that are available. So most people want the least amount of jobs possible. Unfortunately, that means that there's going to be a lot of competition, right? So how do we get ahead of that competition? Well, one thing that we're going to do is much deeper, more quality applications. And that's where this ChatGPT can really come in all phases of the process. Because if I go really, really deep on understanding myself, the job roles that I'm going to be really good for, the types of companies that I really want to work for, the industries that I want to work for, that's going to give me a better chance in that application process to stand out to companies. So here's an example, right? So even for that Canadian living in Costa Rica, one of the first things you can ask ChatGPT is just like, hey, what companies are fully remote and hire anywhere in the world, right? And you can get lists of like this, and there's lists like this kind of all over the internet. And I wouldn't always rely on ChatGPT to be the best source of that information, but it can be kind of interesting because within one screen, we can find companies that are fully remote, hire globally. And the thing is that most of these companies are tech companies, right? And I talk to a lot of people who are like, oh, well, I want to work for a company that's not a tech company, and I want to be able to still work anywhere. And so you can even ask it questions like, what are some companies that hire anywhere in the world that are not tech companies? Right. And then it will tell me, and then it even gives me, what's kind of cool is it even gives me the what it is that it does. However, when I look at this, I'm like Zapier, like I kind of consider them a tech company. I kind of consider Trello a tech company, but a tech company. But crossover and remote here are both travel organizations. They're not tech companies. These companies down here are more so job board companies. So this is one little piece of research you can do is just kind of get a top level of like, what are the industries that you want to work in? So if you know of an industry that you want to work in, post that in the chat because it's really important that you understand what industries you might want to work in. So post in the industry as well as, what kind of remote level you're looking for. So you could do that even more specifically, right? So let's say that you're looking for a very specific industry and you're looking for a fully remote company. You can even type that in as a potential prompt and see what it gets you. You can also do that in Google. You can also do that in other places. But what's nice about ChatGPT is I can just continue the conversation, right? And if I'm going to Google, then I got to restart a search every single time. So sometimes this can be interesting. Now, they posted that Buffer was one of these tech companies that hire, or non-tech companies that hire globally. And I said to them, if I wanted to get hired by Buffer, what are some ways I could stand out in the application process and align to their company culture? So with a question like that, now all of a sudden, I'm not only getting advice and ideas about how I could do something interesting to align to their culture, but it's going to give me very specific things about Buffer's culture that I want to pay attention to. And how that's very interesting to me is like, I'm always looking for ideas, right? Ideation in the job seeking process is key, because if you can constantly, if you don't have to always rely on your idea muscle to give you the ideas, and you can just get ideas from here and then create your own ideas based off of the stuff you get from here, it can be, it can just be really, really, really good. So what it's telling me here is like research their values. Buffer's a values-driven company, so familiarize yourself with their values and how they align to your own. It's saying it's a fully remote company, so having that remote prior experience and some of the knowledge tools is great. And then they give me their mission, right? To power up the world's happiness at work. And then you can show how you align with that mission in the application and contribute to it. Be authentic. They value these kind of things. So you want your personality to shine through. Strong communication skills, being a team player, initiative, growth mindset. So these are all parts of Buffer's values. And the nice part about this, and this all comes from like their website and everything, like I didn't have to go to Buffer's website to go find these things individually. So this is kind of small. Let me hold on, give me a second. Let me see if I can, is that better? I'm gonna make the screen a little bit I might be able to also take my okay, audio is gone. Okay, give me a second. Let me try it like this. How's that? You get the audio now? And me? And the just let me know if it sounds good. I realize I disappeared there for a second, but now I should be okay. Great. Okay, so what do we do with this information? Well, again, in that application process, like as we're looking at companies that we really want to work for, I recommend highly that what you do is you take a company approach to your job search and an industry approach to your job search. You don't necessarily need to know, especially if you're transitioning industries, you don't necessarily need to know exactly what role you're going to do. If you're transitioning roles, you don't need to know exactly what role you're going to transition to. My recommendation is that you really focus on the companies that you're passionate about. And you're like, man, I would love to work at this company. If you could find 20 of those companies, the level in which you're willing to go into detail for those companies, like every single time, that's going to be such a key in keeping that momentum and keeping away from the discouragement, right? So now it's giving me some ideas of ways that I can show this. And then what I'm going to ask myself is like, who can I go find at Buffer, right? Who can I find at Buffer that I can get in communication with? How can I create maybe a sample piece of work that shows some of these things? How can I make sure that my resume that I develop for Buffer shows these different things and actually uses some of these words? How can I make sure my cover letter has those things? And what you could do is you could even go in here and you could say, write me, I don't know if it's going to work because I might be timed out. Write me a cover letter based on Buffer's values and a job for a senior I might type that in, and again, I think I'm timed out here, so it's probably not gonna give me anything. But you can go directly from something like this to asking it to do something else for you. And I always recommend, again, giving it formats, giving it specific information. If you have a legit job description that you can share, I highly recommend actually giving it the full job description. If you have a resume template you want it to use, give it the entire resume template rather than letting it do it itself. And you may have to do that in piece parts because sometimes too much information will make it go kind of wonky. And let me show you what I mean by that here in the resume section. So let's go over the resume side. And I'm going to talk about what it is that you need to get a resume from ChatGPT. I'm going to put this in the chat here. The best things to have for it to create a resume for you is your job experience, your education, your skills, relevant info about your background and qualifications, other job or industry targeting to be able to tailor the language and formatting, and then also as many achievements, as many accomplishments, or as many bullet points as you already have, right? So what we're going to try to do is, this is an example actually by another guy who created a really good YouTube video about ChatGPT and resumes. His name's Micah. And so this is what he gave as a prompt here. And if you look at this here, he said, for my resume, I said, can you generate a resume for me based on my information? And I always say, please, as if it's sentient for some reason. I feel like if I'm nice to AI, then yeah, maybe it will be nice to me at any point when it comes back and decides to kill us all or something. But let's say that you're in that DevOps, because we have a couple guys that are here in DevOps. Maybe you're like adding in additional stuff about your DevOps career and things that you want it to include. So for this one, it's like, hey, here's my resume. My name is Micah. My LinkedIn profile is this one. I'm looking for something remote. So this resume should be optimized for a remote position. I added that in because I think it's important to just add in those little things that really help it just generate what it is that you need. A data visualization expert with experience in Excel, ArcGIS, Google. It gives all these different technologies and all these different skills. I have a master's degree at Western Utah University, which I graduated in 2013 with a 4.0 GPA. I previously worked for Microsoft from 2012 to 2014 as a data analyst, Power BI development team. Please list a few achievements for this role. Now, obviously, the achievements in this role are going to be made up based on what ChatGPT would do for someone who worked at Microsoft in this position. So again, what we can do is kind of get what's called a shell resume, get this like general standard resume from this process of just giving it information. And then from there, we'll get this generalized resume that we can make more and more our own as we go along, right? I worked from SpaceX from 2014 to 2016. Elon personally recognized me with the SpaceX Employee of the Year award in 2015. So you're adding your different awards there. And again, like all this is just made up from this guy who provided this. So you're going to make up, you're going to just do this once, like literally just write this out once. And you probably have enough information on your LinkedIn and enough information in your current resume to just create like a little paragraph about this. And since 2016, I've worked as a principal data scientist for this. Can you add more skills, make my achievements and past roles sound smarter? Also, could you add more information about my educational background? I also have an Amazon AWS cloud certification. So then it spits out an actual resume for us. It's like, here's an updated version of your resume. Now, you're going to want to really read through this, right? And really understand what it's giving you and making sure that these different things are specialized to you. And they're going to, it's basically, it's going to be providing things that it thinks that you might have done. So they're not real sometimes. So you need to recognize that. So now there's a lot of different bullet points here. There's a format here. It's talking about the different skills, all that sort of stuff. But it's not in a format that I like personally. Like I love having a resume that gets rid of the summary section and adds what's called a highlight section. There's a highlight section at the top of a resume. And let me just show you what I mean by that. This is like a template, a standard template for a resume that I like to use, which is shows the format that I like, right? So this format is a fake person as well. Give me one second, sorry. I moved the screen. for a fake person named Lisa Scott. And in this first section up here, we're including highlights. So this highlights section is going to have a little summary statement of who you are. It's going to talk about skills and concepts that you're good with. And then we're going to put our top award or achievement, as well as one of our top numbers and metrics that we've done. What we don't want to do is get in the habit of like putting all the really good stuff of a resume down below. And we don't want to start with, like in this case, like they basically start with a summary and then education and then work experience. I think that makes absolutely no sense, because if you want a company to hire you, you're going to want them to hire you based on your work experience, not your education. Because especially someone who's got out of their education at 2013, like this stuff is not relevant. So what we want to do is switch that formatting around, where we have the skills and highlights at the top, or role name and highlights at the top, and then we have the employment history underneath that, and then we can have the education, certifications, all that stuff. So if we look into this, I basically told it, I'm like, hey, like that's all good and all, but can you please update the resume with this format instead? And I gave them the format just by copying and pasting. Again, you're gonna have to like go in and figure out your formatting, figure out the things that you want to give it, and you're gonna have to test and experiment, because sometimes it will come up with things that just like don't really make sense, or they're not in the exact way. But you know, this one was pretty good. It's like, okay, it gave me that first sentence in the same way that I asked for it, and then it talked about what it was knowledgeable of. I still want to add a couple of achievement bullet points down here. So again, it didn't give me exactly what I want, but there are places in where it did a good job in putting some of the data that I had there in the resume. And then I would just copy and paste parts of this stuff into my template, right? And what I recommend for resumes is that you always have a standard shell resume, like a template that you're using for each specific type of role. So let's say that and I would very much limit the number of roles that you're going for. Limit it to like 1 or 2 roles. Like you really don't want to be targeting a bunch of different roles, because that's going to really mess up your ability to articulate what it is that you're looking for, and companies are going to be really confused. So keep what you're looking for to like very minimal numbers of roles, and then every single role that you have, like the type of role that you have, you're going to have a standard shell resume for that role. And then what you're going to do is when you come across a job description and you want to apply, what you're going to do is you're going to change that job, that resume to that specific job, right? So we're going to customize every single time. And that's going to take some additional work. But again, with ChatGPT, that's potentially going to be a lot easier, because we're going to be able to do some things that traditionally took us a lot of time. What's interesting too is you can also ask it like, hey, from this format, like now I want you to generate a cover letter based on what we've talked about to work as a data analyst for GitHub. So I gave them the specific company I wanted to work for. I gave them the exact format of the cover letter as well. And then it gave me a cover letter here. Now, I want to just say, like, it didn't come out exactly the way I wanted it to. Like, there are a lot of different places where I think you're going to want to like relook at this and just, you know, double check and make sure that it sounds like you. But it's a good start, right? What I like to do, what I like to think of is, in life, when you feel stuck, or when you feel like you have too much work to do, or when you feel like your job search is taking too long, this kind of thing can provide you with just the right amount of help in the initial stage of creation, so that it sparks your brain and your memory. And it's like, oh man, like that's interesting, because now I have a reference point for what it could look like. What you can even do is you can ask like, hey, what are some other ways I can write resume bullet points for the skill sets I've talked about? What are some other ways that I could write this cover letter that would be interesting? Make it more casual. Like even this one, I said, make it more casual and separate the important parts and bullet points. So you can tell the AI what kind of tone you want. Now, for jobs, you may not want it to be super casual, but you might be in a position where you're like, oh, I want it to be a little bit more casual to be in my voice. And you may want to just go in there and change it yourself too. But really, the limit of this is really only your mindset. and like the questions that you develop and the prompts that you come up with and the formats that you create. So I just want everybody to understand that. Any questions so far, or any other things that people are getting out of this that they didn't expect? Would love to see that, and then I'll make sure I answer all the questions at the end. So if you have any things that you want to add or ask, just make sure you're using them in the chat. And it looks like we got a couple of folks, Steven and Virtual Tour, are talking about DevOps. So if anyone else is in DevOps, you've got some people in the YouTube stream talking about DevOps, which is cool. Okay, here's another example of customization, right? So let's say that I have like this template of my job, of my resume, and I have created what I call my shell resume. So I've replaced all of these bullets that are just a template right now into real things based on what ChatGPT has generated for me. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to go find out how to use a job description. The job description is so important and so many people neglect using it. It's crazy. Like having a job description for a role is like your cheat sheet. It's like going into a test and having like the answers basically. So what we want to try to do is give them a job description and allow it to send us the most important parts, right? And yeah, this is, it looks like we're having an ongoing conversation with AI. I actually had a very long conversation with ChatGPT once about if it was alive or not. And I just continued to ask it questions and like debunk what it was saying. It was kind of fun. So you can go into little wormholes like that for sure. So I just basically gave the ChatGPT all of the text in the job description. I said, what words are said the most? Just to get a sense of like, hey, what are those keywords, right? And then it said, here are the keywords that are the words that appear the most: legal, product, IP, development, company, business, work experience. You know, some of these things like company, business, well, business maybe in some circumstances, work experience, like, but product, legal, IP, development, intellectual property, you know, counsel, those kind of things, because I think this job was a law, some sort of law, yeah, self-starting lawyer. Like, this is really important to know because I'm going to develop my headline with these keywords. I'm going to develop on LinkedIn. I'm going to develop my resume using these keywords. I'm going to develop all the articulation of my personal brand around keywords that are in job descriptions that are a good fit for me, right? So that's why I would always be wanting to find different different keywords and phrases, right? Then I said, well, for what phrases are said the most, right? Because keywords are one thing, but what are the phrases that are said the most in here? And then it gave me some phrases that appear the most are legal team, product development, intellectual property, in-house role, legal responsibilities. So you better believe that these phrases are important. Like they're things that you can use. You don't have to create the wheel. You can just recreate it from what it's already giving you, what it already has available to you. This is where job seekers lose a lot of time, is they'll get a resume and they'll just start writing on the resume. No, like literally take bullet points from these things. Take, there's I think was there another bullet point area that I had here. Take legit bullet points from this stuff and just start putting it in your template, in your employment history, and then adjust it, right? It's like, because if you go in here, let me see if I can get a new chat started, hoping that we are going to work here. Let's see. This would be great if we can. Yes, we can. Beautiful. I was like freaking out when I scheduled this live because of how like moody ChatGPT is. And look at that. Yeah, maybe it's not even going to open for me. I got too excited, right? So this is the thing about ChatGPT, right? If you may be in a circumstance where it's going to time you out and it's going to give you this white screen. But that's why I did all this before, because I knew that might happen. So I could take, let's just say I take one of these bullet points. I could ask ChatGPT, what are some examples of achievements and accomplishments for a role name in X industry? And then it's going to give me a bunch of examples, and I can just go paste those in here in these bullets for me. And then I will go in here and just take out the parts that are irrelevant to me specifically, and then add my own metrics and experience. But I want to use as many words as I can from actual real job descriptions too, right? So I can put a job description in there and say, hey, what are the main key phrases? I've got these key phrases, and then I can start putting those in the template. Here's another one. What did I say in this one? Important parts of the job description. So it's giving me responsibilities, job title, company, location. And then I said, this is experience from my resume. Can you make bullet points that match the job description I posted above? How cool is this? Now, what it's going to do is devise some bullet points that match the job description and take stuff from my previous experience. If that didn't just blow your mind, I don't know what will, because this is just amazing. And then I'm going to say, combine the job experience and job description and my experience to create new bullet points that help my resume stand out. So there's different ways you can ask similar questions, right? And then it's going to start combining these. And I would go back in and just make sure, like if you read this and it doesn't sound like you, or there are certain parts of it that are inaccurate, or like they're falsely attributing some metric or accomplishment to the wrong thing, then you go in there and you make the adjustment. Like you're just becoming a glorified editor, but you're not having to do as much grunt work. That's the big game changer in all this for job seekers. And then I would say, yeah, can you make some more, please? And you can always just, again, you're talking to it like it's a human, and it remembers what you said above it. So if you're doing this on like Google or something, you're going to have to restart a search every single time. And that's what I love about it here. And then I'm going to say, can you redo it so all my bullet points have metrics from my experience? And it says, certainly, here are the ones that combine the job description and your experience to help your resume stand out, focusing on metrics from your experience. Like, freaking wild, right? Like, it's so cool. And then I'm going in here and I'm seeing all these different things that are like much more fully baked bullet points, and now I can go put those directly into my template for a very specific job, right? Steve says, sweet, beating the ATS. We had someone else saying, writes you a poem that we've actually, yeah, there's different things that it does when it decides to not let you in. Write poems, or I get this white screen sometimes, so I don't know what that's about. Okay, so we went over job descriptions and resumes. Let's go to LinkedIn for a moment. So for my LinkedIn example here, so is there a free version or a pay version? This is the free version. There's only a free version right now. There will be a pay version soon. And I think that it's going to, I think that it's going to come very soon. And I saw the other question too, and I'm going to get back to that one in a moment. Sorry. I will start this. Okay. I just want to make sure we get through all of the tutorials, and then we'll get into questions. So what I started this one with for LinkedIn was, what are the main keywords used in job descriptions for a financial analyst in the hospitality industry? So it was just being very specific about like what might be found on job description. Now it gives me these keywords, right? And then I said, based on this, please use this formula to create a LinkedIn headline using the top keywords. So now this is where it gets really interesting, because again, I can give it these really cool formulas, and now it's going to start making headlines for me, right? And it makes this headline. It said, financial analyst, I help the hospitality industry drive growth through financial planning analysis. You're going to have to like update that a little bit. But then I said, can you add an impressive metric with numbers, driving increased profitability for hospitality industry with 10% plus budget accuracy and forecast accuracy. So you're going to have to like reword that a little bit, because some of it like doesn't exactly make sense. But then I said, okay, well, can you just create 10 different versions then? And now it's creating 10 different versions of that for me. And again, this is where you become the driver, where it's like your ability to continue to ask it questions, your ability to edit yourself becomes the biggest skill that you bring to the table. The brainstorming and the ideation is what this thing brings to the table. Combined, that's where the real magic is. And it's going to save you a ton of time where you may have had to write all these out yourself before and had to think like really critically about the keywords and all this other stuff. And then I said, okay, well, can you create 10 other versions with this format? And I gave it a different format. for those. And it's like, yeah, of course. And it gave me all these other ones too. So I'm going to go through those and then, end up creating one that I like the best, either combined, or I'll take one of these and, kind of rework it into the one that I want. And then I said, based on what you know about this person, can you create a LinkedIn about for them? You'll need to make up some things, but do your best. So we're creating an entire LinkedIn about in seconds. And then I gave them the format. This is a format I use with my clients. It's called a hook to start, a summary statement, a story, specific numbers and examples, social proof, something personal, and then a call to action. So then it literally breaks it down into those different things. And it says, skilled navigating the steep terrain of financial analysis. I approach each challenge with a calculated, confident, and determined mindset, much like skiing down a mountain. What? Like if you were a skier, that would be pretty cool, right? Like, and what I recommend for my clients is when they're creating a LinkedIn about is to create an about that does have some tie-in to their personality. So some of the people I've worked with, they create things that talk about whatever their passion is, and they compare that passion to what they do for work, because sometimes those aren't a one-to-one thing, but maybe there's some sort of analogy they can make, like this one about skiing down a mountain. And then there's also this summary here: experienced financial analyst with over 5 years in the hospitality industry, specialized in budgeting, forecasting, financial modeling, cost analysis. I have proven track record increasing profitability of my clients by 10% or more through financial planning and analysis. Pretty cool, right? And then story, a little bit of story there, and then specific achievements and bullet points, and then a little bit of social proof. Oh my God, like this is like a really good about. I read this like really fast earlier, and now I'm reading it again. I'm like, damn, they killed this one. So the one thing I'd probably change the call to action the most, but like this is such a way to very quickly develop an about. Like all of this is going to change the way that we do job seeking, the way that we do everything. Like even in your job, like your day-to-day job, the way that you could use ChatGPT to just do things faster is insane. Let's go through some interview questions real quick. So there's a lot of different things you can do with questions, right? So let's say you get an interview and you're trying to understand what it is that you want to, how it is that you want to answer certain questions. You can ask ChatGPT for advice on certain questions, and you can also like go more in depth too, right? So you can ask something as general as like, hey, how do I answer a question? Tell me about yourself. And then it will give you an idea of how you can answer that. And that can be great, like just asking these ones. But I think even better is like asking questions that are more specific, like this one. Unfortunately, it timed out. It wasn't like able to give me this one, I think, because I was using too many tabs as well. But this one was like, what are the top questions hiring managers ask for a project manager in tech industry for a mid-sized company, right? Like that's getting really specific. And then as they give you those questions, you can start to like get even more specific about how your particular experience might be relevant. And you can feed it your experience and say, hey, this is my experience with this topic. How would you answer this question? And man, it's just like it's literally unlimited, the types of questions, the amount of questions that you can use, and all the different things that you could do with this. So I really, really beg of you to play around with this, practice, like find some different things that you can ask it, and it's going to like blow your mind with what it can do. The last one here, this was like the juicy one that I wanted to go over. So this one's cool because if you're looking for a way to create content or to connect with people, say that there's someone that works at your target company. I'm going to keep this specific to job seekers. Say there's someone that works at your target company and you found one of their blogs. What you can do is have ChatGPT summarize the blog for you in a format that you can then post on LinkedIn and tag them in. Why? How can that be effective? If you have if you think you know why that would be effective, write down in the chat, in the comments, why you think that would be such a powerful technique. But here's what you could do. You could take an article from that target contact at this company. You could post it on LinkedIn with the post that ChatGPT does for you, summarizing the article for you, tag that person and just kind of say, hey, like, this is a great article from, blah, 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 that talks about this. And then you have ChatGPT create the actual post for you. And then now you're giving attribution to that person. And now you can DM them about the article. And now all of a sudden you have a real legitimate contact at your target company based on a content that they created and then using ChatGPT to summarize it for you. How cool is that? I want to know how cool that is, because I think there's many people that they're not going to do this. This is why this technique is so underrated and no one's doing it. But here's a way that you can also summarize the text. So I told it, hey, I'd like to summarize some text for me in this format. I gave it a very specific format, which is called a hook summary opinion, right? So we give it a hook, some context, an opinion, and a call to action. That's like the most juicy part of the text, the context of what's needed to be known, the opinion that can be derived from the information, and then create a question for the audience. And then I gave it the text from this entire article. This was actually the article that we spoke about earlier, this one. And then I said, put it in that format, right? And now it told me down here, it's like, hook, a recruitment team unknowingly recommended ChatGPT for a job interview after AI was used to complete an application task. The recruitment team at communication consultancy firm, blah, 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 gave that. The prompt was this. It gives you the context, the opinion here, and then the call to action. Look at that. This is an entire post that I can just like separate out and make a LinkedIn post about. And I can tag the person, like say that I wanted to get closer to Tom somehow, but I wasn't connected to him. Well, I can post here and say, great. And then I could, at the end of this, put like CC, Tom Akers. This is a great article. Make sure to follow him. And now all of a sudden you've created this link or this connection with this person who's created this article. You can use that as a networking technique. I really didn't get into a ton of networking stuff today, but this one is a really good networking technique that you can use. But you can also even just like copy someone's like LinkedIn post and paste it in here and say, write me 5 or 10 comments of like that I can respond to this kind of thing, right? So that can be a really, really interesting way to do it. And I want to just write that one down real quick because I want to demonstrate that one in my tutorials. Right? Everybody having fun so far? Are you learning something? We're almost through. We got about 10 minutes left. So, and I'm going to go through some questions in a moment. But yeah, this is cool. And then you can even say like, make it more bombastic. I don't know why, but this word bombastic makes it come up with like ridiculous things. And you can say, make it funnier, or write it as a viral LinkedIn post, or write it as this, write it as that. And you just kind of got to play around with it. You can say, add some spacing into it. I think that's one thing that I did at some point here. It's like space it out for me. And then, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, give it some spacing. Then it spaces it out. So look at that. Just like so cool to watch this thing go, Cool, awesome. People are learning, having a good time. Let's go through the questions. I am going to, let me just take this off the screen for a second. Okay, so some of the questions. Will this eventually replace the traditional job search? Well, I think it's on you personally to replace the traditional job search. Like, what is the traditional job search? Like, you could take a look at some of the activities that people have been doing for a long time, like applying online and waiting for responses. And like, it's up to you to kind of be untraditional in your job search. Not that ChatGPT is going to be the thing that replaces it. It's like, it's up to you to do the things that are non-traditional. So will this replace it? Like, I think it can definitely replace how you ideate. It can replace how you save time. It can replace time with how you make custom materials in like seconds. Like, there's so much you can do with it that I think to sleep on this now and not take advantage of it and not learn it now, like, literally less than 1% of job seekers are using this. I think less than 1% of the world even knows about this. That's how crazy it is. Like we think, I get into this habit of thinking everybody knows about ChatGPT, but it's only a couple million people using it. So if you think about that, a couple million people using it out of whatever, how many billion people are on this earth, like you're still in the very, very early stages of adopters. So what I would recommend is always looking for ways to stand out and not participate in the traditional job search in any way, right? Okay, so we got that one. Any other? Keep the questions coming. I'm gonna go down the ones that I had in order here. Do you suggest LinkedIn message or cold email to reach job? Another question is, should I connect to CDO? What I'm finding is CDO don't apply. Love from India. Yeah, so I think first and foremost, I would do both LinkedIn and email, but the messaging in which you use is the most important. And what is it that you do before you send that email? What is it you do before you send that LinkedIn message? Those are the critical things, right? Remember at the end of that tutorial, I was showing a way that you could post someone's article, right? So like someone writes an article at your target company, you post it on your LinkedIn, you tag them, you talk about like a summary of it, you say how fucking awesome it is. That gives you a much higher chance of response if you send a message after that to their DMs. And you don't ask about the job, but you ask about, or you talk about the article. And I recommend starting at peer levels. Start at a level that you're already at, like maybe not the CEO or CTOs. Start with people that are just on the team that you want to work on. That way, what you could do is transition the conversation from about their content to jobs that they have there, or for an informational interview, right? So that kind of route keeps you in a place where every message that you send is not a huge high risk situation. And then if you connect well with that person during that informational interview or during that exchange of conversation, you could eventually ask for the referral to the hiring manager, to the CTO, to the CEO, whoever it is that's hiring for that position, right? So leverage your way up the tree. And the way to do that is look at what's the lowest hanging fruit, what's the place in which you're most likely to get a response. Hopefully that was helpful. There are so many remote websites with listings which are free. How do we know which are legit? I don't want to send my personal info to, it's not showing the full amount. To who knows where and not get a role. Yeah, so I can totally appreciate that. There are a lot of different scams going out there right now. In fact, there was this article that was coming out about remote job scams and like how many people are like being scammed from that right now. So my recommendation is, again, go from job board focus, where you're going onto these job boards and looking, to company focus. So if you find 20 to 25 companies that you're really interested in working in, that's what you focus on, is integrating yourself into the ecosystem of those companies rather than trying to sift through job boards. Like job boards can be good to filter and find companies, but yeah, I would go look at the companies themselves, and then you're looking at the company website. Like they're gonna have job openings on the actual website. And if you've only got 20 target companies, then you can go much deeper in the quality in which you look for in trying to get connected to these organizations. You're finding people at the companies that you can connect with. You're finding content that you can engage with that gets you closer. You're using the actual products, the free versions of the products, or even if you could become a paid customer, you become a paid customer. You join their email list. You do all these things that get you closer, right? You follow them on all the social medias. You do all that stuff first, because as a job seeker, you're going to be in a much better position if you've done those things to be able to command an interview. And then you don't have to worry about just sending your personal information just anywhere. You do it directly through the company website. See, what about getting hired by a company in Japan and relocate there as a front end with no experience and no Japanese language? This is a very specific one. Lawn? Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily focus on getting hired by a company in Japan. I would be focused on getting hired by a company that that will allow you to live in Japan, for instance. So you can find a company that hires from anywhere, like a fully distributed remote company that allows you to travel or live wherever. And I might look for a role that has more asynchronous communication, because if you're in Japan and they're in the US, it's going to be hard for you to like stay up during certain times of the day, that it's night there, and those, the time zone's very different. So I recommend working for a company that's fully distributed and they work in a more asynchronous fashion. And asynchronous means basically messages are sent, and the work style is that I send you a message and then you respond when you can. It's not like immediate expectation for response. I have some videos on that on my YouTube as well about asynchronous work, so you can watch those too. Hopefully that was helpful. I have versatile work experience history with various roles and industries. My resume would be more than 5 pages long. I'd love to find, for some reason it's not showing me the rest. I'd love to find ways to combine the previous aspects of roles into a current. I'm sorry, I wish that this would show me the full comment, but it's not. I think, okay, so what's interesting is that I was working with someone who was in her 60s at one point. You can imagine, like, she had a lot of work experience. She had a lot of different roles that she'd done. She had a lot of different things that she was proud of. We got hers to 1 page. And it doesn't mean that you have to have a resume that's 1 page. I think 2 pages is still fine, especially if you have a lot of work experience. But I would really ask you, when you look at the current roles that you can do, what are those? And you should only be including in your resume just the things that are most relevant. Get rid of the stuff that's not, and that means maybe having less bullet points. That means maybe having a consolidated version of your experience where it's like previous roles include, and you have just 1 bullet point for each company that you worked for in the past that may be irrelevant to the job. And yeah, it's just focusing more on getting clear, because if you don't have clarity in what type of job that you're looking for, the companies aren't going to have clarity in why they should hire you. So we got a couple minutes left. We might go a few minutes over just to get all these questions answered. I would imagine that companies start AI content editors for resume reviews. Tips to edit content. Yeah, this is a good point. There's like a couple plagiarism websites or rephrasing websites, phrase text sites. I think the short answer is there is a way that, okay, so there's a bunch of paraphrasing tools online. If you just search free paraphrasing tool, like this one is called Quillbot, you can put your quillbot.com is one of them. You can put your text in there from, if you're really worried about that, you could put your text from there in there and then have it redo that. And then it will regenerate it, because you're right, there is a watermark on ChatGPT, so computers can detect that it's been done by ChatGPT. I don't see why. I mean, I can see it for schools, like why schools would be really against ChatGPT being used in schools, but I don't necessarily see the huge harm in people using ChatGPT for resumes, unless they're completely lying and they're only using it. But yeah, you can use like a paraphrasing tool, and I think that would probably work. I think there's some tools that can also, like if you just search online, like AI content detectors or something, that might be something you can do too. But I haven't necessarily done it much myself. We already talked about the free or paid version. It's free right now, but yeah, there's going to be a paid version soon. It's just a matter of time. What program am I using for this live? This is actually called wave.video, and I got it from a lifetime. This is the cool part. They have a lifetime subscription that you can buy. It's just like, I think it was like $100 or something, and it's for life. So like a lot of like StreamYard, I used to use StreamYard and it was pretty cool, but they were charging, you know, like $30 a month or something. So it gets really expensive after, you know, a couple of months. But this one, you can just buy the lifetime subscription, and that's really, really great. I'm going to put the link. Let me just give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find the link to it. To the lifetime one here. If you go to this site, productivity, is that where it is? Yeah. Yeah, 1 sec. Okay, so this is my referral link to, so just so you know. That's give me a second to find. So this is called AppSumo. AppSumo is amazing. And it can, I just tried to post it in the chat. So if you go on there and you search for Wave Video, it's $99 for a lifetime deal. It's pretty good. I'm not sure if I missed any questions here. Here's the rest of the question. Previous roles in current resumes might create any gaps. Yeah, one of the things you can do is you can just, again, you can like, you can put like instead of putting months, you can just put years. So if it's just a number of months that the gap is, you can like just use years as a date, And then also you can just kind of pull up all the relevant experience to the top, and you don't need to have it as a chronological. You can have it more as a resume that's focused on the most relevant information. So there's different ways to do that. You can also like go into ChatGPT and say, hey, make this shorter, right? And just continue to have it make everything shorter. I think that was all the questions that I had. And we're at time anyway, so that kind of works out perfect. I was thinking about doing a live stream every single month from now on. Does that sound good? we had a bunch of people in here today, so I'm very appreciative of all that. Appreciative of all the comments. Like that's what makes it worth it, is being able to provide the value to everyone. And I want my community to be to feel that I love serving. I love being, you know, in here doing this. And if you want the prompts, you want the other videos, I'm going to create more of those this week. So on Thursday, I'm going to send those all out. So if you join my mail list, which is at the top of my website, which I'll put in the chat, you can join the mailing list if you're not already on it. I'm going to send the videos out on Thursday. And then if you don't want to join the mailing list, it's totally fine too. You can just join the YouTube or subscribe on YouTube and click the notification bell, because then you'll get a notification that I uploaded the ChatGPT videos. Yeah, much love, everyone. I'm going to be making those tutorials this week. If you end up coming up with any other cool uses for ChatGPT, let me know. I love seeing it. So take care, everyone. We're going to end the broadcast here. Have a great rest of your day.